Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of High Input Games. I'm Nick, aka the Wild One, and joining me as always, Chris Kodiak. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm excited to be here, Nick. Can't wait to talk to these guys about the Future of Gaming PlayStation conference that just released, and got a lot of information to talk to you guys about today about this whole thing.
Absolutely. First and foremost is the console's out there. Everybody knows what it looks like now. It's been a big speculation for a long time. And what are your thoughts on the size?
I think it's big. Obviously, it's the biggest console that's been released to date. I think the design is bold. I got to give them credit. I think PlayStation decided to pull out all the stops.
Compared to Xbox, what do you feel?
So I first when I saw the Xbox reveal, I kind of laughed at the fact that they didn't take any chances.
Super similar to the PC, as everybody knows. You've seen the design.
It's a black box. They didn't pull the chance. However, seeing what PlayStation did and the bold choice, I know it's going to be divisive. I know people are going to say, "Hey, man, this is going to look insane in my living room." And looking back, I can give credit where credit's due to Xbox on keeping it simple yet delivering questionably better hardware in a simple package. So we shall see what happens. But I
the hardware aside,
yeah,
games.
That's where PlayStation does come to shine.
I mean, we saw games. I'm going to start you guys out. Just going to say, Grand Theft Auto. Originally, the logo pops up on the screen. Here we are. We're thinking, is this Grand Theft Auto 6 already? Has Rockstar stole the show with the opening of what could be the next installment? No. It's the third iteration of Grand Theft Auto 5, originally released on the PlayStation 3, then 4, and now again on the PlayStation 5. Are you excited, Chris?
We've spent hours upon hours. We practically lived in Grand Theft Auto 5's world for a couple of years.
100%.
We did everything there was to do, I felt, in that game. I am excited to see what Rockstar brings to the table. I know they're milking that cash
Smoother animations. I know once the casino was released,
some
of my biggest problems are we would go in the casino, frame rate would drop considerably. It didn't feel fluid enough to have a fun experience.
It was too much for what the PS4 can handle for us, and I'm excited to see what they can do with the casino.
Sure.
However, I know we had talked about what really makes a game like that memorable is something like with Red Dead when you're walking into Saint Denis and you see 300 people milling about. You don't really get that in Grand Theft Auto 5 because it's so many years old. I'm hoping they're bringing those animations to the table.
Bring that tech. Bring
make it feel more immersive when you walk down the street. If we go
my biggest complaint always for Grand Theft Auto Online was the frame rate, number one. And second of all was always the considerable loss you had to density of population of the city. So we lost all those players, or not players, but lost all those pedestrians, lost all those extra cars. When you're driving on a highway, it feels empty. You're the only car shooting down the highway, and it's very easy.
That's the concerning factor.
Yeah,
Red Dead Redemption did the same thing. Drastically more. I felt like Saint Denis felt immersive.
It
felt empty, and it was a lot of things. That's a whole nother conversation for what they did with that game. But Grand Theft Auto, I'm very excited to see what they do. I mean, it's a gem of a game. I'm hoping they're not doing
continues
it just to
sell, continues to be in the top 5 all-time selling PlayStation games every single month. I think it was the third best-selling PlayStation game of this month alone. So it makes sense.
That's the thing. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm hoping personally as a gamer that they're not doing it because of the money.
Yeah.
That they're doing it because they really have something genuine to bring to the table. Are they just bringing this to the new console just simply for the fact of saying, hey, people are still buying it, why wouldn't we? I don't blame him. I'm just hoping for someone who actually enjoys the content that they're bringing something to the table that's worth playing this time.
And I'm sure if you do like playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto, I would assume that this is more Grand Theft Auto is a great thing for you.
Right.
If you're saying, I've done all the heists, I've done all of the extra expansion stuff that you've released for us, at least they're saying, hey man,
we got more.
We know what you like, we got more of it, and it's going to be better than anything you've done so far. And I think that that's a good testament from Rockstar, and it'll be something to look forward to while we're waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6 because inevitably when that game comes out it should be by and large the end of Grand Theft Auto 5, and when they release Grand Theft Auto 6 they have to accept that there will no longer be the player base that's going all for Grand Theft Auto 5's microtransactions. It will then be split between the players that... I mean, who doesn't want to play the newest Grand Theft Auto as well? You take that in consideration.
Every time.
It's never going to be, hey man, I'm not getting Grand Theft Auto 6 for about 6 months. Can we just hop on 5? I don't think that's even a discussion that is in anyone's private circle.
Absolutely
So
not.
To move on, Horizon Zero Dawn 2. How you feeling about this? I know you were a huge fan of the first game.
And unexpectedly so. Horizon came out of nowhere for me. I even seen the trailers. We had made jokes back and forth. He was the one who told me, you got to pick this game up. It's something special, dude. I was like, man,
fantastic.
I'm not trying to shoot your robot dinosaurs. It's a long-standing joke between us on how bad I misjudged that game. It was an absolute gem.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly excited for Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
Yeah. Location, you like where it's set?
Incredibly.
Yeah.
I honestly, the first time I saw the trailer, I didn't even notice that those mountains were buildings. I was watching on my phone. I didn't know. You had mentioned it to me on the phone. I went home, checked it out on my television. I'm blown away. I think the content, I think the location.
And you would think that California's been done in Grand Theft Auto and in other games, and it's you would think like, oh man, how are they going to do their own spin on a place where we've actually played in a few times? You know, like even when you play Grand Theft Auto, you get those vibes, whether or not it's San Fran or not, you still get those vibes for those California vibes, and I think that they've done enough to really make it seem like a new world, this new environment, this new place, and yeah, definitely. Really excited to get lost in that world and see the rest of Aloy's story, because they kind of did leave us on a cliffhanger. Granted, one of my black spots on my gaming history is not finishing the DLC, the Frozen Wilds. They do not give you much of a... they don't hold your hand much when you jump back into that DLC.
No, so, it had been, 2 years, I think, since we had played the original, and getting the DLC and getting into that world.
And the DLC wasn't originally... It didn't originally take 2 years to make. It's just that we just... We had other games, and then it popped up, and we're like, oh, let's grab this. But by the time we slipped into
I'm hoping we didn't need the DLC to fully grasp what's going on in the second one. Even so, maybe we'll play through it, live stream it. You can catch us at Twitch, live streaming the Horizon DLC, maybe.
No, 100%.
We'll do something like that for you guys, see if it's worth watching.
Yeah, that'd be worth it. And you guys can come along and you can find out, real time what we think of the expansion that we're talking about right now. So,
I know we're excited about Horizon, but I know Nick's favorite game of 2018, Spider-Man.
Oh, 100%. Big fan of Spider-Man. And actually, when I saw the reveal for Miles Morales at the PlayStation event, I immediately was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe they were able to do it as quickly as they have. It's a quick turnaround for a potential standalone game. And I know when Chris and I had first had initial discussions, we were talking about, this is DLC. This is going to be a standalone DLC or a large DLC that you can just tack on to your Spider-Man experience. And I wouldn't doubt that if they do a PlayStation 5 remaster, they will bundle in the Miles Morales standalone game with the Spider-Man base copy. Mm-hmm. But they have announced that, much like the Uncharted DLC that we had, this will be a standalone experience that you can buy on disc. It is Miles Morales. It's a single-player experience, which I would assume is 20 hours long. And I'm just excited to play in that world as Miles. Use his animations, use his different acrobatics.
Yeah, the way they did him something different to make it feel like we're not playing as Spider-Man all over again. They
say the director said, I wanted him to move like he's not confident at throwing himself off the web.
Around
so
now.
He's like, I'm falling, and then boom, off we go again.
I think that's going to add quite the element too, where we're gonna realize that we're playing
sort of a
more
clumsy
as an
Spider-Man almost. Yeah, totally. Where he's like, I'm falling, and by luck, he's able to grasp, a ledge or something.
And not to mention with the PlayStation 5 capabilities, what is this game going to really bring to the table?
And the weight of the story in that game. No spoilers. Spider-Man had some fantastic weighted storylines, and
shockingly weighted. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic! And to see how Miles will transition and how his story will have, I'm sure it will be inspired from a lot of Sony's original content. Like
there's plenty of content to use, from his story.
And I would say, arguably, Miles Morales is more popular now than he ever has been. I know he's been a popular Marvel character for a very long time, since before I can even imagine. But I would say that now, after Sony's smash hit with Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales is a household name. He is Spider-Man.
Right. And he's the Robin in the Batman series.
100%. If not, he is the... When Batman did that other Batman, where they had Batman Beyond, and Bruce Wayne was training the younger Batman to be Batman, I feel it's kind of like that. It's not necessarily a sidekick anymore. This is
his
Miles Morales.
Almost,
here I come. Yeah. I'm my own guy, finding my own path, and I think that there's going to be some good connection with that game. Honestly, I'm really, really excited about Spider-Man. Now, to move aside from some of these AAA titles, which I know we're all very, very excited about, indie games. And there were a lot of them at the conference. One that I know Chris is excited about, and I know I'm pretty excited about myself, is Little Devil. So tell us what you thought about that.
So Little Devil Inside, open world action RPG. I know we had thought about the way the campaign seems to work is that you're a small little adventurer trying to travel through these odd little polygon worlds and creating a story within a story. It looks like you're
living inside
of a person,
100%.
Is what it appears like.
It seemed like in the trailer when he starts to get off the couch and move, your world begins to shake and turn around based on his actions on the outside world. Kind of like an Osmosis Jones type of video game we got going on here. And it seemed dark.
It seemed very dark.
It seemed like it would be something that you would definitely play for an engrossed story. You know what I mean? You're going to get something out of it.
I'm curious what happens because the main character that you're living within is old. I'm curious if it's going to touch on the fact on when he dies, what happens to the character inside.
Interesting,
My speculation would be that's kind of what they're going to be discussing is end of life situation with his inner self that was a little bit more adventurous, but he can't really do those things anymore. Who knows? But that's the vibe I got from the trailer. All in all, incredibly excited about that game.
And that's one of the things that I love about indie experiences is that they take the risk on telling the story that they want to tell because their budget's smaller. My favorite indie game possibly ever is The Outer Wilds. I played that game to completion. I know that everyone's talking about it right now because it's in the Steam summer sale right now. You can pick it up, I think, for $19. The game is fantastic. It takes place in 22-minute cycles, and you get 22 minutes to learn a little bit more about how to stop the world from ending. Because
at the end of 22 minutes,
this isn't a spoiler. The sun will go supernova after 22 minutes. You must figure out why it's going supernova and how to maybe get around that situation. And honestly, Chris knows I'm not a puzzle guy. I'm not the guy who likes to do all the reading, and there's no dialogue in The Outer Wilds. Everything you find is text. Everything you find is old. It's all just written down. And the things that I ended up learning is bizarre.
If you're bringing it full circle to the games that are coming out now, when you're talking about games like indie games that are coming out, Ken and Bridge of Spirits, probably one of the most talked about games that came out of the PlayStation reveal.
Very, very attractive animation. Reminded me a lot of an Illumination movie. I said to Chris, man, this really looks like Despicable Me. Like the characters have been handcrafted and they just look so interesting. And I know you talked about how, when you destroy a character in the game, it almost looks like these little spirits are then coming back to you and they're either cleansing you or whatever, or you're freeing them from whatever situation.
Yeah, I think the evil spirit has captured them and using their life force to actually exist, and the whole point is to kill these evil spirits, take them down and get those creatures out. At least that was my interpretation of the trailer. Again, they didn't give us very much to work on.
Were beautiful. They were fantastic. The animation was gorgeous. And I just think that overall, as far as new IPs go, that's definitely something to look forward to, something that you should keep on your radar.
Yeah, I think that's coming out. Obviously they've been in development for a very long time, so we'll see what happens with that, and hopefully we get something decent out of it. Obviously, other than the indie games that are coming out, you got stuff like Ratchet and Clank. Rift Apart looks
excited.
Like it's going to push the PS5 to its limits. Hopefully, that's some of the stuff that they're speculating about. No loading times, being able to jump in between and out of worlds interdimensionally. What'd you think about that game?
Fantastic. I know that the developer of Ratchet and Clank is the same developer that makes Spider-Man, so it's Insomniac Games, and I'm sure they have a bunch of different studios working on a bunch of different projects all at the same time. And I remember when I first told you, or we found out that Spider-Man was being developed by Insomniac Games, and I said to you, look, the same way Ratchet and Clank has all these tools and these weapons, they're going to give Spider-Man all these tools and these weapons. You're like, man, that sounds like a really cool, unique situation. So now going back to Ratchet, I know the developer has said that thanks to Sony's SSD proprietary system that we can now jump through dimensions instantly without zero loading times, which has allowed us to go to this world that might have substantially different creatures, substantially different textures, substantially different vehicles to the previous dimension, but it can be done in a flash, in
seamlessly.
an instant. Seamlessly, yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited. I know we had mentioned about PlayStation 5, their graphical capability. It's the SSD, man. It's all about what's going to be able to be no load times, loading in the very beginning, and within seconds jumping from, like you said, these completely unique worlds with completely unique circumstances, and doing it instantaneously is going to feel very different than what we're experiencing now on the PS4.
Yeah, no, 100%. And to throw up some honorable mentions right now, I'd like to say Resident Evil 8. I mean, that was very impressive. For me, at least. You know, they've taken it to a direction that you wouldn't usually see Resident Evil. They've been sticking to the zombie route since I think they started the formula on zombies with video games. And now we've got werewolves and it looks like witches and very tormenting style gameplay. And it's nice to see that they've transitioned or rather followed their first person that they had stuck with in Resident Evil 7. So it's similar gameplay to Resident Evil 7. It's going to be all up in your face again, and I just think that tone of that game was just real perfect.
And I love a good horror game, man.
Yeah.
I mean, horror is one of my favorite genres in the movie realm, so it transitions well into games. The jump scares are good.
Yeah.
Resident Evil knows how to do a good horror game.
And usually I'm terrified. Honestly, like a good scary video game usually gets a pass for me because jump scares just... they get the better of me. But after I saw what they did with Resident Evil 2, which I have, again, on my backlist to play, I haven't played it yet, but I've seen how wonderful it looks. I've seen how well it plays. It's
been reviewed incredibly.
I've read the reviews on it, and I think it looks fantastic. So I trust what they've got going on. I trust that they seem to really be sticking into the first-person genre right now. And if that's what's helping them tell a better story, if that's what's making them tell this story, rather, better, then
say go for it.
Yeah, tell it any way you can. A few more honorable mentions. Oddworld, Soulstorm, really like that.
The art style looks cool as hell on that one.
100%. Like a bit of a throwback to games from the original PlayStation, but just the animation, the physics, everything about it looking so much better. When you see all the pipes and metal falling down around Abe, it just looked like a game that you say you like your side scrollers, like those 2D sort of things, and I'm 100% with you. I think that a good experience, and Oddworld wasn't short. You know, Oddworld, I think the original one was like 10 hours. It's not going to be a 2-hour game like some of the side scrollers we played recently. So right. I think that, you know, that game is something to definitely be excited about.
Again, the art style is important in a good side scroller, and I think anything like Oddworld gave a Rayman vibe a little bit to it, you know? Yeah. So we'll see what happens with it. I mean, what'd you think about Sackboy, or, you know, Hitman 3 was one that got mentioned here.
Yeah, I'd say, Hitman, I have played Hitman 1 halfway through at the moment. I would say that Hitman 3 just looked like more of the same for me.
Agreed.
You know, it just looked like we're going to some random... I like
but
the places...
But if it's not broke, don't fix it.
100%. 100%. I like... It seems to be that Hitman is in his element when he's doing things that aren't too extravagant. I recall everyone's favorite level from the original Hitman, or from one of the Hitmans, was the clown level, where you dress up as a clown and you went to that birthday party and you had to sneak in with the cake, or you could be the pool guy. And it's those missions that make you feel the grittiness that I think Hitman's trying to portray. Because, you know, although it looked amazing with him parachuting into the Dubai Tower and climbing up the side, it didn't feel to me that transitions as well as the realism to it, where we're walking around. A birthday party could be something that could happen in any day life, and for me it just felt like, although I like where they take these things, it just to me feels more of the same.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm a little more excited than I feel most people, I think it got a little bit of an underrated mention at the conference. Hitman, one of my most favorite capabilities of Hitman was being able to walk into a room, because it's not an open world experience and there are different levels. You feel it. There's hundreds, sometimes thousands of people within these rooms and these situations.
I remember when you said to me you were just playing Hitman recently, or it's been about a year now. You said you walked into that scene where they're having that Met Gala and they're doing the walkway, and it's 500, 600 people watching this runway model.
Easily. And there's a part where you can drop the chandelier down. If he's at that exact point, the amount of dynamics that evolve over the course of, say it's a 15-minute experience, that 15 minutes is better than most open world gaming experiences I've ever had. And And that's on a PS4.
Yeah.
So I'm incredibly excited to see what Hitman does on a PS5 with their capabilities, where it's just blown open, where, when you could put thousands of people into these 15-minute experiences on PS4, what are they going to be able to do when they get the capabilities of the hardware of the PS5? Yeah. These experiences are going to look insane.
With the ray tracing and the photorealistic effects, you're going to walk into a kitchen.
Wild.
That kitchen's going to feel like you could eat off the kitchen table. It looks so real.
I'm telling you, that one's going to sneak up on us and smack us pretty good. I think that one's going to come in clutch. But.
Okay. Well, to end the show, and I know that you haven't finished it yet, but we're just going to bring this up. We can do a two-parter on this. First of all, your excitement for Cyberpunk. Let's talk about that. We'll
start with Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, obviously, me and Nick have a bet on our game of the year. Whether or not, and we're gonna try and keep this very spoiler free, because both of us have played The Last of Us Part 2 already.
Yeah, I finished it already actually, and I enjoyed it a lot.
I'm in the last 3 chapters, so I'm pretty close. And we have a bet. I believe Last of Us is gonna take Game of the Year. He believes Cyberpunk's going for the title.
And I'm basing that whole premise off of how successful CD Projekt Red are as a developer. I've got a lot of faith in them. I think that they are possibly my second favorite developer behind Rockstar. I think that their care and their admiration for their fans is phenomenal.
Their storytelling is second to none.
Yeah, I'll never forget buying The Witcher 3 and taking out the insert that was inside the disc cover, and no one really talks about this, and it just said, like, we're committed to you as a gamer, we're committed to giving you free DLC, we're never going to charge you for egregious purchases, just love the game that it took us years to make, thanks CD Projekt Red. And I was like, okay, these guys are cool. They know what they're doing. You know what I mean? They care about me.
They care about their story. Yeah, they just want you to play their story. And when they did come down
to charging for DLC, whether it was $10 an episode, $15 for a pack, whatever it was, ended up charging, they always, I felt, gave you more than you paid for. So for instance, if you could finish a $60 game, in a traditional $60 game in about 30 hours, The Witcher will always give you, for $10, 20 hours, 15 hours of additional content. And I think in today's DLC fiasco that we're in, that seems to be more
I'm not fair. A DLC fan, as you know. I hardly ever play DLC. The only DLC I have bought is for The Witcher 3. And I got to tell you right now, that game makes me even more excited for Cyberpunk than if I had never played it. Cyberpunk looks incredible.
I know that Cyberpunk just a couple days ago had their gameplay feature where they were talking about some of the features in the game, which we were able to look into, and they also really just talked very briefly about who you're going to be portraying as and the world you're going to be portraying. I think even in the trailer they showed, sometimes the person responding was the male V and sometimes it was the female V. When she's sliding down the roof at the end, she's about to fall through. She's like, oh shit. She's like, oh yeah, that's the female V panicking as she's falling through the glass. So it's really nice that they have really dedicated themselves to, same with Assassin's Creed, making sure that both dialogues are very well covered,
very well represented,
100%. So extremely excited about Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I mean, and I know you want to wrap the show up on The Last of Us. We're definitely at the end here, but a little bit of details on The Last of Us Part 2. What is your overall without any spoilers, obviously, what would you say Last of Us Part 2 brought to the table probably the most, as opposed to someone who may have just only played the first one and maybe the DLC? What can they expect by playing Last of Us Part 2?
Good question. I think, honestly, storytelling will never be the same again. I think that what they have done is they've made everybody in a video game personal to the essential character. I know you and I talk a lot about throwaway lines in movies sometimes, and how certain movies just seem to get every lick of dialogue perfect. And I think that there are many throwaway characters in video games. You might meet a dude in the first hour of a video game who gives you a gun, and then by the end of it, who is this guy that gave me that gun?
That's a good point.
And why did you give me the gun? And who gave you the gun? And yet, with games like Cyberpunk and games like The Last of Us Part 2, I feel like they have invested so much time in world building, where they decided, let's give the person who you're talking to a backstory, and let's let their backstory have been affected by someone else's backstory who you're also going to encounter in the game at some point. And I do believe
even random people that you may think you're never going to see again. are important.
And I 100%.
You know, like,
and I think that transition from just I'm killing some random person, or I've got to run through these 18 people and get to the end of this thing, comes to, this person who I may or may not encounter on my, as I'm trying to get through to the next area. They know people. The people that they're with know them. And it's just this new, essentially effective storytelling that has redefined, I think, single-player genres. And for anybody who's saying, man, is the single-player game dead? I mean, it's more alive than ever. I believe.
I almost prefer it. I gotta say, we play a lot of multiplayer games. A good single-player story can't be beat. It still hasn't.
I do believe there's a place for both. Yeah. There is times when I've said to Chris, when Battlefield drops, I can't wait. Or when Battlefront drops, even the Star Wars Squadrons that's coming out. Very excited to do a bunch of multiplayer games with my friends. But there's something to be said about that 30-hour experience. You've got your headphones on, lights are off, it's just you and the game, and if the story takes you on the journey, like Spider-Man, like God of War, like Horizon, like so many of these amazing games, you can... I know I just listed a bunch of PlayStation games there too.
Well, it is the future gaming conference we're covering, so
but
buy a PlayStation if you haven't already.
Yeah, 100%. Or wait for the new ones because they'll be backwards compatible. So basically, I'd like to wrap this up with that. If you liked this show, if you like what Chris and I are going to be delivering on a weekly basis, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click the notification bell. And anything you want to say, Chris?
I want to thank you guys for taking the time to hear us out. I mean, we've got a pretty uneducated opinion. However, we are gamers. We're people that actually love this content. We're someone that's going to be able to bring you our reactions to this content and hopefully give you an opinion that you find interesting. And if you do, like Nick said, hit subscribe. Try and leave us a comment. Tell us that we suck. Any kind of interaction that might make our channel a little bit stronger will be appreciated in the long run. And I really hope to see you guys down the road.
See you later, guys. Thanks for joining us.